It has been said about Christianity that it is a religion of children. Unlike many other religions, Christianity places an emphasis on children. Of course, the one who founded Christianity, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, when he heard in his public earthly ministry that the children were being turned away, he rebuked that and said, no, suffer or allow the little children to come to me, for of such is the kingdom. Jesus said that his kingdom was made up of and belonged to children and those who were like children. Now, this is a puzzling statement that Jesus makes, but it has laid the groundwork for 2,000 years now of Christian ministry. Our politicians will take pictures with kids, and you've heard before, and they probably don't do it as much anymore since the pandemic, but they kiss the babies, and they hold the babies, and they get pictures. Now, the politicians are not doing that because they're pandering for the infant vote. They're doing that because they know that it appeals not to the toddlers and to the children, but it appeals to the adults. And they're doing that to get the vote of the adult. Almost all religions and political parties, and businesses for that matter, are trying to target, their demographic are not children, unless it's children's toys. Their demographic is to adults, because we view adults as people of importance. They're the people who have the money. They're the people who make the decisions. And so all of these religions and all of these man-made institutions view children as an interruption. Jesus did not say that there are children in his kingdom, but rather he said that the kingdom belonged to the children. In Matthew chapter 18, Jesus says that you must become like a child in order to come into his kingdom. And then he says in Matthew 18, speaks much of Jesus' philosophy of children, and you should study that after you get home tonight. But he said, if you receive one of these children in my name, you have received me. It's amazing the emphasis that Jesus placed on children. And I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but part of the uniqueness of Christianity is that it is childish. And I don't say that in a derogatory way, but that Jesus says you must become like a child in order to enter into my kingdom. And the greatest in my kingdom will be those who humble themselves like a child. I'm sure you've seen ads on TV or maybe the internet for cruise lines that say no children are allowed here. And this is a cruise for adults only. Well, why is that? Because if I'm going to spend all this money and I'm going to go on a cruise, if it's me and my wife and we don't bring the kids with us, the last thing we want to do is hear everybody else's kids running around and screaming and causing problems. That's the last thing we want to see. That's the last problem we want to have. And so they understand that, hey, we want to make an environment that is comfortable for adults. Well, why is this? Because children come with problems. I joke with this about this with my wife, but we didn't know what problems were until we had kids. We didn't know what tired was until we had kids. We were joking just today. I said, you remember when we first got married, we'd go out on a Sunday, and we didn't have an afternoon service, we had an evening service. I said, we'd go out to eat after Sunday morning service, and we'd go home and take a long nap. You remember those days? And we were laughing about it. I said, what in the world would that feel like now? Man, if we did that, the whole house would be on fire. It wouldn't be standing anymore. We'd wake up to the police knocking on the door, wondering what's going on in our house. Children mess things up. Children break things. Children dirty the place up. Children test your patience. So why did Jesus place such an emphasis on children? Why did he spend time ministering to them? Because what value do they have? In the ancient Greco-Roman and Jewish cultures, children were looked at much differently than today. Today we have entire branches of our government that deal with children's services and making sure that children are taken care of. And back in those ancient cultures, many times they wouldn't even name their kids until they came to a certain age because the mortality rate was so high. Children were looked at lawfully. They were looked at as the property of the father. They were looked at as, again, something that would be looked at as an asset or something that you would own. They did not have the rights that they have today. They were looked at as the very bottom of the social hierarchy with no legal rights, no power, no authority. And so when the disciples asked Jesus who would be the greatest in his kingdom, of course they're asking this because they believe that if you are the greatest in Jesus' kingdom, and of course his kingdom is the best kingdom of all the kingdoms, then you're pretty high up there. They didn't realize that that's not what Jesus' kingdom is about. So Jesus said, okay, you want to be great? Bring that little child over here, the one that you turned away because nobody really wants children around. Children weren't welcome in the eyes of the disciples, in the eyes of those that were powerful and important. They didn't have children running around, and their followers weren't made up of children. And yet Jesus said, bring that child to me, because of this type is what my kingdom is made up of. The lowest of the low. The ones nobody else wanted. The ones that didn't have any value to them at all. And so Jesus said to the disciples, if you want to be in my kingdom, there is no merit to yourself. As you come to me as a child, because my grace is a gift. It's not something you earn. It's not something that once you attain to a certain level in life, you can be worthy of entering to the kingdom. He says, no, you must be like this little child.